A story about a homeless man who was charged with digging a 15-foot hole in a cave that he was literally living in Virginia. Now, I'm from Virginia. Virginia has extremely strict laws. If you are caught with a joint in Virginia, you're going to jail. That's how statist a lot of these states still are. We're talking about the states and the federal government and cities and ordinances. Basically, we're living in a police state, and if you don't believe it, here's the story yourself. A homeless man was charged with digging a 15-foot deep hole in basically a 2-room cave that he was living out of. And, if you look a little deeper into this story, he basically was doing nothing wrong except he dug this hole himself with just a shovel that was 15 feet deep. And he actually had a 15-foot tunnel that led into the quote-unquote cave. And another interesting point of the story is that Rios Cave was just 200 yards from the Fairfax Police headquarters. And he built it in a park. So basically, in the middle of a park in the woods. He was covering the top of it with plywood and leaves to basically keep it covered. So I guess he got caught by the Fairfax County Sheriff's Office, and they arrested him. They arrested Rios and ordered him held without bond. And then he returned to his cave, and they basically destroyed this entire thing. And now he's also charged with destruction of property and for failing to appear in court after a traffic charge. So here is exactly what we're going to continue to see happen in America, the police state. These laws are just getting out of hand. Now, granted, he did build this in a public park, and you would think, well, it's public. Well, technically, it's trespassing if you're on that park, even though it is technically public grounds. So if you look at the legal laws, it probably is. But let's think about this for a second. There's a difference between the laws and what's morally right. This guy is obviously homeless. You don't really know his story, but it's not like he was doing drugs because they didn't find any drugs in the cave. They actually found homework, basically schoolwork and books. So it's unclear on whether, this was a drug user or anything like that, but it is clear that this man was homeless, that he was probably put into poverty from a number of factors, and obviously if he was getting speeding tickets, it probably played into him not being able to afford his rent. And what we're seeing is that the state continues to charge whoever they want, whether they have money or not, and it's just getting completely out of control. So ask yourself, if there's ordinances in Utah and Colorado where you can't collect rainwater. There's ordinances where you can't plant your own food. There's ordinances throughout this country where you can't have your own electricity. You have to be connected to the grid. So again, they want us to all be complicit into their system of control, and we have to ask ourselves, is this something that we all agree in? Is this something that's completely right? There are places in this country right now where people are getting arrested for just feeding the homeless. People were setting up literally a table worth of food that they cooked. This happened to a priest not too long ago. He was just handing out food for free, and they fined him hundreds of dollars for doing that. So at what point do we just say this is getting out of control? Ask yourself that. What is the tipping point for you as an individual? What would have to happen for you to get so upset that we would start overturning some of these laws and getting rid of them? Because right now, the land of the free, home of the brave is non-existent, right? Our freedoms are pretty much non-existent. They're very limited. We even see campuses right now taking away free speech and having free speech zones. Completely illegal. You have to imagine a lot of these laws are illegal to the constitutional law, but they still enforce them. They still go about that, just like the income tax. It's been proven. Joe Bannister's case is a great example of that. Acquitted because there was no actual mandatory income tax law. It's been won in multiple court cases, yet they still enforce it. So at what point are we going to stand up and say, you know what, no more, this is it. We want our freedoms. We want you to get the hell out of our lives. It would be one thing if this homeless man was, attacking people in the park or causing some major issues, but he wasn't. He was just trying to live, basically. He has no home. He's trying to educate himself at least a little bit. May not have been the smartest move to build your own home in a park, but he didn't really have many other choices. So let's think about this as a collective society and say, is this the best approach? This is what's happening now. Comment and share below.